What is going on, guys? Okay, so we're just getting ready to start. We got the rundown here. A little later than I would have liked. It's about 8:30 here in Virginia. But here we go. I get Audacity up here and test out my audio, and we're good to go. Testing the audio. Okay, so the audio sounds good. Turn down my volume over here a little bit. There we go. Alrighty. Ooh. I actually need to fix this real quick. So I guess just to fill in the gap right here, I'll go over the rundown with you all. So we're going to do Attraction News, obviously. Canada's Wonderland, talk about Yukon Striker. King's Dominion, we're going to talk about how they installed some metal detectors with Twisted Timbers. I have not been to King's Dominion since, so this happened this past weekend, and I was not capable to go to King's Dominion that weekend. Then we're going to talk about North Carolina and how they are receiving their first mountain coaster. So that's some news that kind of slipped under because I believe that's about a couple days old news. And no one's really talked about that, but it looks pretty cool. And Coaster Crazy segment, we're going to talk about my trip to Carowinds that I'm taking this weekend. I actually have the itinerary of the event I'm going to go to. It's called Carowinds Campout. Then we're going to do Busch Gardens or King's Dominion video segment. I'm going to try to go into depth on that because those are two parks that I really like, and I'm going to discuss which ones I think are better, and we had a poll, and I'll talk about the results later. And then for the weekly poll next week, it's going to be what is the best park in Germany. So yeah, that's about it. Let me... I know this past month I've been to a couple of theme parks. My home park. I know this past month I had been to a couple of theme parks. The parks around me, Kings Dominion, Busch Gardens. But I am finally going to be taking the park trip that's going to kick off my 2019 true roller coaster season. I'm going to be venturing down. It's going to be my first big venture down to a park because Busch Gardens and Kings Dominion are so close to me. It's going to be my big trip to kick off this season, and I'm going to be heading down to Carowinds. I'm going to discuss more about this trip later, but that's just something really cool that's happening to me, and it's really kicking off my 2019 coaster season. So everybody, welcome to Coaster Talk, your source for everything roller coasters. My name is James Barber. I'm really excited that you guys are here to join me today on this episode of your source for everything roller coasters. Let's go into the... I don't like that at all. Okay, I know what's going on here. I don't have my pen. I like to talk with pens, and I can't even find my pen. That's cool. Just a pen would be great. Oh. I know this is weird, but for some reason I like to talk with a pen. That's kind of better. Okay, so let me... Alright, here we go. I know this past month or so I've been telling you guys that I went to Busch Gardens and King's Dominion and kicked off my 2019 coaster season. And while that was great and that was a lot of fun and I had tons of fun, I had great fun, tremendous fun with a lot of my friends. We rode some of my favorite coasters, Twisted Timbers, Apollo's Chariot, etc. The big trip that's going to kick off my 2019 coaster season is coming up. It's this weekend. It's actually in 2 days as of this podcast recording. I'm going to be going to Carowinds in North and South Carolina. And if you don't know, Carowinds is located both North and South Carolina. And I'm going to be venturing there in a couple days. I'm going to be riding some of my favorites like Fury 325, Afterburn Intimidator, and of course the new for 2019 coaster, Copperhead Strike. I'm really excited for that. And so that's about it for now. I'm going to talk more about the trip later, but I just want to let you guys know that that's coming up. That's starting off my 2019 season, and I'm really excited for that. So welcome to Coaster Talk, your source for everything roller coasters. Not a big news week this week. Nothing major really happened in the amusement industry, but there are a couple cool things that I would like to discuss with you guys, and we're going to talk about that in attraction news. Alrighty. Alright. I like it. Here we go. So Yukon Striker, the world's fastest, longest, and tallest dive coaster, has had its media day at Canada's Wonderland. So this is basically a dive coaster. If any of you are unfamiliar with it, there are models like Griffon at Busch Gardens Williamsburg, models at SheiKra at Busch Gardens Tampa. There's a lot of models around the United States and around the world in general. So this is going to be the first in Canada, and so that's a big deal, and a lot of people are giving it positive reviews. I've heard nothing but positive reviews from this ride. It looks pretty great. I've seen some of the theming, and it looks fantastic. Just the theming alone makes the ride so much better. Because a dive coaster, in terms of enthusiasts, aren't usually the most popular attractions. A lot of enthusiasts you'll hear call them one-trick ponies, rides that have a great drop, but everything else is just kind of blah. However, with the theming, it not only makes the ride better for enthusiasts, but it just makes the ride feel better in general for even general public visitors, because it just the appearance and the attention to detail that Canada's Wonderland is put on this coaster is fantastic. And something else I want to talk about is almost something that Cedar Fair hopefully will continue to do with their new rides. Something they didn't do with Copperhead Strike, so I'm a little disappointed in that. But they did add this new interactive, well, not interactive, but new, really cool looking ride system for your loose articles. So instead of putting it in a ride bin or putting it in a locker or whatever you normally would do at most of your theme parks, they actually have like bins that I don't know exactly how, but somehow they make their way over to the other side of the exit platform. So you put your things in when you're about to ride the ride. You put all your loose articles, your phones, your keys, your wallets, your bags. You put it in there, and then somehow, I'm not exactly sure, but it makes its way over to the exit platform. So you do not have to pay for a locker. You do not have to put it in a ride bin and risk forgetting it or risk someone stealing it. It'll make its way over to the exit platform and wait for you there, where you will get off the ride and you'll go over and you'll grab it. That's brilliant. I'm not 100% sure why they did not put this on Copperhead Strike. Maybe it's something they're just testing out in Canada, because it seems Canada's Wonderland is almost the testing ground for Cedar Fair. I mean, that's kind of what the amusement industry nicknames Canada's Wonderland is. It's the testing ground for Cedar Fair. So maybe they're testing this out to see how it works there first before they implement it into a park like Carowinds or a park like Cedar Point or whatever. Maybe they wanted to put it in a park that is popular, but it's not as well known in terms of, I mean, even generally in North America, people know, Carowinds, Cedar Point, Kings Island, Kings Dominion. Canada's Wonderland is not as heard of in terms of those kind of parks, though. So maybe they just wanted to put it there just in case it gets a bad rep or something happens, so they can just be like, okay, it didn't really work that well. We put it into a park that is, again, known as the testing ground of our chain. It didn't really work that well, so we're not going to add it to any other major parks in our chain, or any parks in general in our chain. So I feel like that might be what they're going for here. Again, a little strange they didn't try it with Copperhead Strike. I would, as long as it seems to be working well, I think it would be a great decision to add it to Copperhead Strike. But it looks like Copperhead Strike's just going to have the lockers, and hopefully in future, when Canada's Wonderland hopefully has a successful run with this new ride system, hopefully that Cedar Fair will implement it in their other rides and their other new parks, and new rides in other parks. So now it's a question that is popping around: is this the best dive coaster? And that's a question that I think it's an opinion again, and based off looks, I would say yes. I know that I've heard from multiple people that have ridden Griffon, SheiKra, all the other B&M dive coasters in North America, Valravn, which isn't really a coaster that's really known well for being a fantastic ride. I've heard that it tops those 3 rides right there, Griffon, SheiKra, and Valravn. So now the question is, does it top the European dive models? And that is definitely, again, opinion-based. But I know Valkyrie at Leesburg is definitely something that is brought up as one of the best dive coasters. Does that beat this? I mean, it's basically a very similar ride. It has the Vestra strengths, and it just does more inversions on Yukon Striker. So is this the better version of Valkyria at Leesburg? I don't know. I'm curious to see what people have to say about that, especially people that have ridden those models. I know there's Baron. I know there's Oblivion. I know there's all these dive coasters. Kraken. Kraken. Why did I have to add Kraken in there? Because I'm stupid. Ooh, Kraken. It is Kraken. Wait a second. Yeah, that's what I thought. Never mind. It's Crack or Crake or whatever. That's what I meant, not Kraken. I'm mentally ill, I think. We all make mistakes, though, so. Okay, so I'm going to redo that. Is it the best one? That's the question. And again, once I ride it, I will definitely make my judgment in terms of the North American dive coasters, because I've ridden all of the North American dive coasters. So I will make my judgment then. However, is it better than the European ones? That's a question for, when I go to Europe, I will answer that question. But for now, I think it looks fantastic. I think in terms of theming, I was blown out of the water. I thought they would theme the station, theme a little bit around the area. But as far as I can see, the park area of where this is located looks crisp. It looks clean. It looks very, very nice. It looks like a Cedar Fair area, but it looks, in terms of theming, it looks pretty great. And so that's something for another day again as well. Is the theming as great as other parks? But in terms of Cedar Fair wise, I think as far as I've seen pictures, I've seen videos, I've seen the POV of the ride, the whole area around this ride is it looks pretty beautiful. So that's something that I'm really glad Cedar Fair did that. Made that look good, so good. Why is this? Okay, so I'm gonna plug in my computer real quick, charger wise. King's Dominion has installed a metal detector in the line for Twisted Timbers, and this is actually in the station itself. You're going to have to... I'm going to re-say that. Didn't like that weird little pause I did there. King's Dominion has installed a metal detector in the Twisted Timbers coaster station to prevent guests from riding with objects in their pockets like cell phone, keys, wallets, and phones. The zip-up pouch installed right behind your legs in the train are still available to use. However, what we here at the show have heard is that you will have your loose articles, and when you get in the vehicles, ride ops will see the stamp that the metal detector people stamped your hand prior to... I'm trying to flow it in a way that it makes a lot of sense, and right now I'm not. I'd like people to understand what I'm saying. King's Dominion has installed a metal detector on the line for Twisted Timbers to prevent guests from riding with objects in their pockets like cell phones, keys, wallets, etc. The zip-up pouches installed right behind your legs in the coaster train are still available to use. However, what we at the show have heard is that if you have loose objects, your hand will be stamped, signifying that you have loose articles, and then when you get onto the ride vehicle, ride apps will see the stamp and ask you to place your loose article in the pouches. So it's basically requiring you to put those in the pouches, and if they don't fit, I'm sure they will kick you off the ride and not allow you to ride. Because I know the pouches are a little small. I've tried to put in, sunglasses and a phone in there before, and they've been very tightly packed. So I can't imagine someone having a hat, having a keys, having a wallet, and trying to fit that in that pouch. So I'm sure they will escort you off the ride. I don't know if they'll be generous and say, you waited all that time. Here's a quick queue. I don't know what they're going to do about that, because I know there's going to be a lot of unhappy people that were like, I was told I could bring these on here, and now it's not fitting in this pouch. So what do I do? That's definitely something that's going to happen probably. And so I'm wondering how Kings Dominion will deal with that. However, I don't know if it's such a bad idea. I mean, I think the simply put best idea to fix this problem with the lockers and everything is to just put ride bins on the ride. But I know Kings Dominion and Cedar Fair in general are going through this money grab phase where they just want money, and they're trying to throw this, we're doing it for your safety. They're trying to put that spin on it, and it's really not for your safety, because actually more people attempt, as they've seen, to sneak phones on, to sneak things like that on when you're forcing them to pay like $10 for a locker, than just saying, hey, there's a ride bin right there. You could do the metal detectors with a ride bin, and that would still be easier than lockers, because again, these people are going to say, you can bring loose articles, you just got to put them in the pouch. Then they're going to get up to the pouch. You're not going to fit in the pouch most likely. If you have multiple objects, it's going to be really tightly packed in that pouch. Sometimes it might not even fit in that pouch. And then those people, instead of, hey, there's a ride bin, just go put it in the ride bin, they're going to have to go all the way down. They're going to have to exit the ride, buy a locker, and then wait again in the line if they really want to. So again, I don't consider that for our safety. I think it's more of a money grab. I think there are better ways to deal with it in terms of trying to be safe, like I said. So I'm not a big fan of this in general money grab locker thing, but this has nothing to do with the lockers. But the metal detectors in general, I think, are a good idea. But I know they are keeping the lines a lot longer. I heard that Twisted Timbers actually got into the double switchback, so they have actually 2 switchbacks at Kings Dominion for Twisted Timbers, and I got into the second one, and it almost wrapped its way up to that's longer than when I was there on Media Day and Pass Holder Preview Day, the day that the ride opened to the public. It was not that long. I don't think I've ever seen it to the second switchback in my entire career, and I've ridden this thing over 120 times, and I've never seen it that long. So I've heard the metal detector is slowing down ridership, which is a little upsetting. However, if they feel it's what they have to do, that's what they have to do. But again, I think there are better ways to deal with this issue. But I think there are ways, like I said, Cedar Fair's trying to do this money grab thing, and so that's how it's going to work out for them. And in terms of guest appeal, I mean, I think a lot of people are going to be upset by this. I don't think it's the metal detector so much. But again, the line is going to be moving slow. People are going to be being told that the objects they have are going to fit in the pouches and that they can bring them on. And then they're not going to fit in the pouches, and they're going to be booted off the ride platform and told that you have to go buy a locker, or you have to, maybe they'll be generous, like I said, and give you a quick queue. But I doubt it, because they cannot give everybody in the park a quick queue. But again, I don't know. It's a little phase that Kings Dominion and Cedar Fair in general are going through. Hopefully soon they'll fix this. North Carolina's Sugar Mountain is building a mountain coaster. The reason this is so big is because this is North Carolina's first ever mountain coaster. Tennessee has them, other parts of the country have them, but North Carolina as a state does not have a mountain coaster. According to local news, a new alpine coaster is coming to North Carolina, and it'll be called Wilderness Run Alpine Coaster. There are plans for the carts to be pulled up 770 feet to the top, and then go down a 2,160-foot down track, which will start off with a full left turning loop. So I'm guessing that's a non-inverting loop, kind of like going around the side. I'm guessing maybe that's a helix. I don't know. It's the GP News story here. Along with a U-turn, the ride has another 3/4 turn and another full right loop ending where you started. So they're using the word loop, but I'm thinking they're trying to say it's a helix, because unless this alpine coaster is going to be going upside down, I think the loop is supposed to signify a helix there. But that's pretty great. Cedar Fair. I'm used to bashing Cedar Fair, that I'm just saying Cedar Fair every time I start a sentence now. I personally have not ridden a Alpine coaster yet, and so here's my chance here. Next time I go down to Carowinds, which is actually this weekend, but next time I go down again after this weekend, if it's on the way, I'm definitely going to stop by and get a mountain coaster credit. I was down there with Dollywood, and I could have gotten them, but at the time, I was more concerned with riding Lightning Rod a million times. So, the park or the mountain that it's located on is actually very beautiful. It has a lot of, again, wilderness, a lot of trees. So you're going to be flying through the trees, flying through wilderness. And I heard from the actual man that's running this that they're going to attempt to keep the bare minimum of trees being cut down. So they're not going to cut down a lot of trees. They want you to be flying in the woods. They want you to feel like you don't know where you're going, where you're going to turn. They want it to be a high-speed thrill attraction. So it sounds fantastic. I'm really psyched about it, and it kind of went under the wing there. I mean, this is a couple days old, and I've barely heard about this at all. So yeah, North Carolina is getting a mountain coaster, and it looks pretty great. Okay, so now I'll go on to the next segment here. Talking about North Carolina, though, I'll be heading down there in a couple days to go to Carowinds and ride some of the new coasters they have there. One new coaster. Some of my favorite roller coasters, and ride a new coaster, Copperhead Strike. Really looking forward to that. So let's go on to the next segment, Coaster Craze, and talk about this trip. Here we go. That was pretty bad. Talking about North Carolina. Oh, wait. I'm just going to delete this whole thing. Talking about North Carolina, I'm going to be heading down into the North Carolina border and going to Can I talk tonight, please? Okay. Talking about Carowinds. Talking about North Carolina, I'm going to be heading down there in a couple days and going to Carowinds. And I'm really looking forward to that, getting on some old coasters, some of my old favorites like Fury, Nighthawk, Intimidator, Afterburn, and also riding the brand new for 2019 Copperhead Strike, which I've heard is a pretty great ride. So I'm looking forward to that. Let's go talk about that trip in the segment we call Coaster Craze. That was pretty good. There we go. So let's just move on. I love Carowinds. It's one of my favorite parks. I've been there about 4 or 5 times now, and every time I go, I still find it more and more exciting and more intense and more just thrilling in general as a park. I don't know what I'm talking about. How can a park be thrilling? Oh boy, this is going to be a long night. I love Carowinds. Each time I go back, I just love the atmosphere. I love the rides. I love the food. I love the environment it's surrounded in that Carolina area. And I love that it's in both states. Because I'd never actually been to South Carolina, and the furthest south I've gone into South Carolina has actually been going to Carowinds. So that's pretty great. So Carowinds is hosting an event called Coaster Campout, and I'm going to be participating in this. So it's basically what it sounds like. We're going to be camping out inside of Carowinds, which I believe, where were the actual location? I believe it's under Intimidator, which is the B&M Hypercoaster located there. So that's really, really awesome, a really unique opportunity that not many people get to have. Not a lot of people get to say they slept under a roller coaster, and I get to claim that right after I do this event. So I'm going to go through the itinerary real quick, maybe discuss a little bit, and just talk more about how excited I am for this park. So from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., we get to redeem our tickets. You probably don't really care about that. That's not really that exciting. From 4 to 6, we're going to check in at the Harmony Hall, Harmony Hall is one of the best restaurants at a theme park ever. And you might say the food's not that great, blah, blah, blah. I've had the food. It's pretty good. The atmosphere, though, is just so cool. It's such a little cool restaurant. If anyone's been to Busch Gardens, it's kind of like a small just fest house. Or if you've been to Kings Island, I know they have their little fest house there too. It's like that. So yeah, it's really cool. And then from 6 to 7:30, it's dinner at Harmony Hall. I'm not 100% sure if it's going to be a exclusive dinner with just the event, like only the event people are going to be let in, or is that just the general time that people want to come in and they're basically saying you can have dinner. I don't know. If that's not like something that you're required to do, I'm going to be over at Fury and not eating dinner because I don't want dinner. I want to ride Fury. But if that's something that's like required in the event saying that you should come, then I'm going to do that. And then at 7:30 to 8:30 is you're going to get your gear in and you're going to start setting up your tent. And then 8:30 to 9 is, you actually get your tent set up, blah, 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 blah. But from 8:30 to 10 is ERT on the one, the only Copperhead Strike. So I know a couple of weeks ago, there was an event down there, I believe with Coaster Crew. And my friend was bracketing me. He goes, yeah, I'm getting first ride of the day on Copperhead Strike because of this. And I'm like, that's okay, because I think I'm going to get about 10 to 15 runs on Copperhead Strike with the nighttime ERT I get. So I'm not that impressed. We were just having a little, debate, just a little friendly debate there, and that was kind of funny. But, yeah, I'm getting ERT on Copperhead Strike. Not only is it going to be ERT, it's going to be nighttime ERT from 8:30. So 8:30, it'll probably be a little light out, so I will get like a light a kind of semi-day ride, but then at, closer to 10, it'll be pitch black, and I'm going to be going along with the headlights, getting the front row ride. Oh, that's going to be great. I'm really excited for that. I've heard it gives some pretty decent ejector, and I've heard that it's some good hang time. So I don't think I'm going to go as far as to say it's going to be the best ride at Carowinds, because there are some crazy people out there that are like, Copperhead is the best ride at Carowinds. Oh my God, it's a mini Maverick. Again, I disagree severely. I don't think I'm ever going to like it that much, regardless of how much I ride it, regardless of where I sit, regardless of how it's running. I don't think I'm ever going to like it that much. It's never going to top Fury. 100%. If it beats Fury, it's going to be my number 2. And it would be beating El Toro. It would be beating Intimidator 305. It would be beating Twisted Timbers. It would be beating Lightning Rod. And it would be right there with Steel Vengeance. And that's not going to happen. I can guarantee you that. I think it'll be top 25, most likely. I'm looking forward to it a lot. So then from 10 to 11:30, actually, we're going to have a late night snack and a movie. And then from 12 a.m. is lights out. So that's pretty great. And then the next morning, we're going to wake up at 7 to 8, rise and shine. You're going to get your stuff out of the park. Going to have some breakfast again at Harmony Hall. And then from 9 to 10 in the morning, we have ERT on Fury 325, which is going to be fantastic. Really looking forward to that. I mean, can you imagine? I've always said, like, what it would be like to, to ride a roller coaster first thing in the morning, and now I actually get to do that. Like, I've traveled to parks, and I've gone maybe, 30 or 45 minutes after I've woken up, but I'm literally going to have woken up for, like, probably 30, maybe 20 minutes, and this is going to be like my alarm clock. Instead of it going beep, 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 it's going to be me flying down the drop of Fury 325. That's going to be one hell of a way to wake up in the morning. That's my coffee right there. I don't need coffee. I need Fury 325. That's fantastic. So, really looking forward to that entire event. Again, Fury is my second favorite roller coaster. Intimidator's fantastic. Afterburn, one of my favorite B&M inverts. And I'm actually really close to saying that Afterburn and Alpengeist are two inverts that I've been debating for a while. For a long time, it was Afterburn way better than Alpengeist. But I got a really good ride on Alpengeist a couple weeks ago. And I was like, holy crap, this is better than Afterburn. So I put it a little bit above Afterburn. However, I am open-minded to riding Afterburn and going, holy crap, what am I talking about? This is way better. I'm ready. I want to say that because I like Afterburn a lot. I've been riding it for a long time because I've been going to Carowinds since 2017 now. So I've been going for, in terms of, I'd never even heard of Carowinds 3 years ago, so you can't really blame me. But in terms of I've been going for a long time and riding Afterburn a lot. So I'm really looking forward to this event, really looking forward to Carowinds and this entire trip. So, yeah. Again, I like Carowinds more than King's Dominion. I know I'm going to get a lot of hate for that, but I just find the atmosphere to be so much better. I find the rides to be so much better. But, you can debate with me there. But, again, I'm really looking forward to Carowinds. It's one of my most anticipated trips thus far, and it's coming up in a couple days. speaking of King's Dominion, we were just talking about that with Carowinds. It's now time to go into the next segment and talk about what is the best park in Virginia, Busch Gardens or King's Dominion. Let's talk about that in Break Run. In the break run. Can I speak English? In Break Run. Sound like a travel. In Break Run. In the Break Run. Let's see if that sounds good. So this past week, I asked our audience on Coaster Talk Podcast Instagram page what park they preferred, Busch Gardens Williamsburg or King's Dominion. Both two world-renowned parks, both voted very highly in awards like the Golden Tickets in terms of roller coasters, in terms of the actual park. Busch Gardens Williamsburg is considered one of the most beautiful parks in the world, and King's Dominion is one of the most famous in terms of thrill rides and roller coasters. So I put it up to the test. Which one is better, Busch Gardens or King's Dominion? And we got a very large audience response. We had almost 90 people vote in this poll. 45 people voted for Busch Gardens Williamsburg. 45. 44 voted for King's Dominion. So that's a lot closer than I would have liked, because I seriously think King's Dominion is nowhere close to Busch Gardens Williamsburg. I think Busch Gardens Williamsburg is so superior now, especially with Volcano being gone. And now, 2020, I don't think there's going to be any doubt in my mind with the new Intamin multi-launch we're getting. So that's 51% to 49%, to put in that much in perspective. So, yeah, it was a lot closer. At first, it was pretty much Busch Gardens was dominating. I believe at some point it was 60-40, and then it just slowly shrinked, and I'm like, oh my gosh, if King's Dominion beats Busch Gardens, I'm going to be a little disappointed in my audience. Thank God Busch Gardens pulled it out just a little bit. Again, a little too close for comfort. But Busch Gardens is a park that I think is just so much better. And you might say, in terms of roller coasters, it's a little closer. You can say Twisted Timbers and Smith Hero 5. Yes, definitely two coasters that are better than any coaster at Busch Gardens. However, once you get past those two and you start comparing the rest of the lineup, there's no question. Busch Gardens has a more solid lineup. Busch Gardens, every coaster there is pretty great. The worst coaster they have is Tempesto, and Tempesto is pretty solid. The worst coaster at King's Dominion is Landaconda, and that's pretty terrible. Backlash Stunt Coaster is okay. Rebel Yell's okay. Busch Gardens Williamsburg, basically every coaster there is good. There's no okays at Busch Gardens Williamsburg. Even Tempesto, which is a coaster that I've said before I hate. I don't hate it. I'm not a huge fan of it, but I know some people that think it's one of the best rides there. There's also Invader, which is great. I like Invader a lot. It has some good solid airtime, especially for such a family coaster. Verbolten, such a cool and unique ride, and that's again a family coaster. Apollo's Chariot, really great ride. Alpengeist, really great. Griffin, really great. Loch Ness Monster, really great. So, in terms of the overall coaster collection, I still think Busch Gardens is better. I know King's Dominion has those top two, but other than that, Grizzly's good. That's about it. That's where the lineup drops down. Dominator's okay, really. So yeah, and then in terms of beauty, in terms of food, in terms of quality, in terms of park and customer service, every category I just listed goes to Busch Gardens. So I can't understand the logic behind voting for King's Dominion. You cannot tell me the park employees are nicer at King's Dominion. You just can't, especially from someone that's been to both of those parks over 50 times in just 1 year. I went over 50 times to King's Dominion, and I went almost 20 times to Busch Gardens. So not quite 50, but 20. So I've been to both parks multiple times. And if you try to tell me that the customer service at King's Dominion is better than Busch Gardens, then you're just plain wrong. There are some great employees at King's Dominion, but overall, at Busch Gardens, I've had some of the best in terms of customer service, some of the best experiences in my life. Just great. I know the park president. He's great. Kevin is fantastic. I know other executives at the park. I know the head of marketing there. I know the head of engineering. I know the VP of engineering. I know a lot of people at Busch Gardens, and they're all fantastic, nice, down-to-earth people, and I can't say that for King's Dominion. I know some of the employees there are great, but I can't say in terms of executives and in terms of, and again, and some employees are not great. Some of them are not, but I do have some good friends there, but in terms of overall employees, some of them are kind of jerks. So overall, I think that the audience got this completely wrong. I'd say Busch Gardens, 10 out of 10 times, is the better park. I don't know. Maybe some people I think the thing, a lot of people have not been to either park or have only been to King's Dominion. And so they're just kind of jumping the bandwagon and going, "Oh, Intimidator 305 is the big Giga Coaster. That's pretty intense. Therefore, that park's better." I think that's what we're seeing here, sadly. Both great parks, but I think Busch Gardens 100% edges out King's Dominion. I'm trying to keep Coaster Talk international, and for this next weekly poll, I'm going to do another one that I did a couple weeks ago. I did the best Japanese park, did the best English or UK park, and this week I'm going to ask, what is the best park in Germany? There are so many parks in Germany. There's Europa Park, there's Phantasialand, there's Heidi Park, there's Movie Park, there is Hansa Park, there is Holiday Park. Let me know, which one is your favorite? Not which one you think looks the best, or the one that you think has the best coasters. What is the overall best park? Even if you haven't been there, I know a lot of you guys have not been to Germany. I want you to say overall which one to you looks the best, and which one to you just overall as a park. It doesn't have to be the best in terms of theming or food or whatever. Overall, which one in your opinion looks like the greatest park in the country? So I'm looking forward to hearing your responses. I'll talk more into detail about my responses next week, because I like to give my opinions off in the next week's show and leave you guys off on a little cliffhanger and leave you guys wanting to come back next week and listen to what I think about that. So thank you guys so much for listening to Coaster Talk, your source for everything roller coasters. Follow us on Twitter at @CoasterTalk_pod, Facebook at Coaster Talk Pod, Instagram at Coaster Talk Pod. My name has been James Barber. You've been listening to your source for everything roller coasters, and I will see you guys all next week. Thanks for listening. Alright guys, thank you for watching the live stream. I'm going to end it here. I know you guys just listened to that episode, so thank you guys so much. See you guys all next time.